Okay, why do we use a green screen when recording Lifeys? So we've done some Lifeys that we've recorded with no special background, just wherever they are sitting, their surroundings. We've done some Lifeys that were recorded in front of an infinite white background, and we've done Lifeys recorded in front of a green screen, which is what I typically do for people's Lifeys. So I want to just explain to you my reasoning, because some people have their differing opinions as far as what looks better, what they prefer better. But I'll just give you a few ideas why I like to use a green screen. So one thing I like about green screen is, from my experience, at least, it's been easier for me to get the colors on the face and on the clothing to look nice and crisp with a green screen than with our setup for infinite white, which I tweaked the setup. I think it looks pretty good on infinite white, but the background, it's hard to make it look super good. And it looks a little washed out. The colors on the face and then the hair and the eyes look a little bit washed out. Also, infinite white, I feel like you can make infinite white look stellar, but if you don't get it just right, it can look a little tacky. And it's hard to replicate the exact lighting conditions. It takes a lot more lights as well. Our infinite white background that we've used a few times takes 6 lights, whereas right now with the green screen, we're using 2 lights and then just the ceiling light. And so it takes up a lot less energy. It produces a lot less heat, so the studio doesn't get as hot. And people don't feel like they have lights blaring in their eyes as much. So it saves on money, heat, energy. It's a lot easier to make it look consistent, the same for every Lifey in any location that we record Lifeys. The colors don't look as washed out, in my opinion. You may notice in this video even that the one glaring challenge with green screen is the edging. So it's probably not super noticeable for me right now, but if you have someone with poofy hair, it becomes more noticeable. And if the background is completely white, like a lot of our videos are, it can become pretty noticeable. The edging might look kind of fuzzy or like bouncy. And yeah, that's definitely a downside to a green screen. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. I've gotten used to watching videos like that, and it doesn't bother me. Also, though, if you put it up on a really big projector screen, it might become more noticeable if you're really up close to it. I'd say that, in practice, probably 2/3 or 3/4 of people who view our videos are likely watching them on smaller devices like tablets or mobile devices like phones, etc. And when you have the video scaled down to a tablet screen or a phone screen, that becomes less and less apparent. And I feel like the purity in the colors, and also making the background more consistent and flat, I think is worth the trade-off. Also, I like how green screen, we can give it a pure white. Some people might think it's too much to do a pure white. They might think a grayish white might be better. We've tried both, and we could always change if we change our mind, but currently I like the pure white. I think it looks very crisp. I like how when you embed the player on a website, often it will look like there is no background. All you see is the person. So there's no background because there's the white background of the blog post, the blog page, and then there's just this floating person in the player sharing stories, and I think that's kind of a cool look. Yeah, I also like pure white because I like maybe the symbolism of it. A lot of people who watch Lifeys with their family will be looking at Lifeys after their family member passes on. So say if a grandpa does their Lifey, and then they pass on, 10 years from the time they recorded their life history. they'll likely play a clip or two from that person's Lifey at their funeral. And I just like the idea. I like how white symbolizes purity and symbolizes heaven. And I think it communicates, I think how we should see every person. We should see them as someone who is worthy of heaven, or, like a brother or sister, a child of God, a person. Anyway, those are some reasons why I like using green screen, and I like the infinite white, like keying out the background and putting white. I mean, if we put in a black background, we just keyed out the color and it was just black, it would look great and we wouldn't have to worry about edging and stuff. But I don't think having someone look like they're in a dark tunnel is kind of the message or the kind of connotation I want people to have with Lifey. I want Lifey to have a light feeling. A lot of, like I mentioned, after people pass on, people will be watching these, and it kind of has a cooler feel if it looks like they're speaking from heaven instead of the other place. Also, another cool thing about green screen is that with a green screen, you can put in whatever background you want to. So you could put in a blue background, you could put in pictures. If we ever decided to change the background, we wouldn't have to change our setup. We could be still the same, and we could decide to give people more flexibility with their backgrounds, where they could have pictures of their childhood when they're sharing stories about their childhood, or where they can have a movie playing, a family movie playing in the back, or it's just very versatile. So anyways, another downside of green screen is that if they're wearing green or certain shades of like gray or black, it can be a little tricky to not make them like semi-transparent and not make their clothing like bounce and look all sparkly. But I've been learning how to use green screen using Final Cut better to adjust the green screen settings so that even in those situations we're usually able to make something work without a problem. So anyway, those are why we use a green screen. If you have a strong suggestion, feel free to comment or message me. I'm open to suggestions, but those are the reasons why I've went with this decision thus far. I hope it's been helpful for you. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.